Hi, my name is Frank Debets. I work for PwC based in Singapore. I lead our customs and trade consulting practice for our network of firms in Asia, and I also have a role in representing that network globally. For our industry, clearly, I would be talking about consulting because that's what we do. And like so many of us, I think the main change is that we've all been working from home. I've been working from my home for the past 4 months, which is unusual, and so is everybody else. So we are spending lots of time in meetings on screens, talking to each other around the region, as well as to our clients. What's even more unusual is that I haven't been on an airplane for the past 5 months, as have many of us. So far more of our work is done virtually. And so therefore one of the biggest changes, I guess, is the use of technology. We're using technology differently in what we do, in how we do it, how we deliver services to our clients, and even the types of services we offer, because clearly our clients also have a need to do things in a slightly different way. The changes that I think companies need to prepare for, with a focus on customs and trade, medium term and long term. I think medium term clearly is a little bit more predictable, but it's probably also more impactful. And the first and foremost impact that I think will play out quite soon is increased and perhaps even more aggressive audits by the authorities. Because they've had to let things go for a little while, and they might be a little bit concerned as to what has happened during that more flexible time of importing and exporting. But at the same time, and even maybe more impactful, is that they're not meeting their revenue targets. So they're going to be looking for revenue and for money. So I think that's something to prepare for maybe in the next year or so. I think in the medium and the longer term, it's really coming back to the point around technology. We've seen many authorities in the region stepping away from their usual physical manual approach to checking cross-border movements. They are using technology more. Countries like India have actually said we want to continue with virtual declarations. Other territories in the region have said we don't want the physical connection or the physical meetings between officers and traders. So I think using technology to address the cross-border movement, getting away from the paperwork and the manual interventions, is something to prepare for. And I think separately also companies need to prepare for far less predictable and more variable supply chains. And they need to kind of build in more flexibility around where they source, where they process, what the destination markets are, and how customs and trade should form a key component of the planning around that. Because we do expect that supply chains are going to be far more variable and versatile and changing all the time in the next 5 to 10 years. Well, for the leaders and the politicians and the policymakers, I guess we've already seen some knee-jerk reactions into protectionism, because that's the easy, the more popular stance, and from a health perspective, clearly also necessary. But I think as everybody has come to know, and we see some good examples, is that in the longer term, keeping markets open, particularly for the economies in ASEAN, is going to be absolutely key. And that means trying to limit any trade restrictions to as short a period as possible and not let them become the norm, but also looking to create more opportunity for cross-border trade. There's quite a bit of specialization in the different markets in ASEAN that would help every economy to build on its own strength rather than trying to develop its own economies across the board by preventing foreign competition. So I think the leaders have to keep that open mindset, and they have to encourage the international trade aspect of their economies. And I think as part and parcel of that, what I would like to see more is just far more interaction between the authorities and the policymakers and the regulators on the one hand, and the companies on the other. And work on the basis of trust, rather than some of the mistrust that perhaps we see exist at the moment, where the regulators are not calling on the ideas and the thoughts of the private sector enough. And if that comes with perhaps harsher penalty regimes, that could be fine. But as long as the interaction up front to come up with better ideas, better planning, better regulations is there, I think that would be a very wise move by the leaders.